from anybody else. Uh, No, it's no, no, it's not too late. So Maggie suggested that we modify our agenda, move the new business up to new business. I'd like to keep things a little preliminary.
Oh, so
If you
we're
have,
just
if you have the first that now's the time to do it. And I'll have no objection to. Okay, well, let's make sure everybody's not. So, it's been, I will say, it's been moved to modify our agenda. To basically move from the Big City application, which is old business, and the new business, and support the person to new business that people with relationships with that. That's take that. Good. So then moving down into what's now on the paper was number 9, new business preliminary. This is the way I translated and it's more I received the other day. Preliminary looking through boards multiple relationships with monthly. So that's where we're at now.
I have tried through the years to I've tried through the years to draw an organizational diagram of on treat all the entities here, and I've never been able to do it because it's so very complicated. And often you start out thinking, well, I can just do a little simple Venn diagram, and it gets very, very complicated. And then you draw lines and you try to make a web, and it just is incredibly complicated. And so this is an effort today to try to bring a little bit of order to what's going on in this town, and particularly focusing on the people who and the groups who care about trees. So I have a packet of information.
This one page.
Yes. And you all, could you come with I'm a school teacher with lots of skills, so they all kicked in.
We've got more than we need here now.
Everybody got. And so I'm proposing that we have a new project under the tree board. And the project.
Could you see that? Members know that.
Yes, good.
Who's not here?
Jane and Wilson, maybe
Jane
and the staff.
Yeah, there should maybe just give one copy.
Who
to
is?
Angie and
I'll give the copies to. So I decided I would, as a teacher, assign us a project. And the name of the project is Who Cares About Trees? And the purpose of this project is to clarify and improve the roles of groups and individuals who care about trees in Monterey. Then I set out 4 goals and a proposed timeline, which are fairly simple. Examine the existing roles of the entities, to propose modifications, to hold a group meeting, to share our suggestions, and then to create a calendar of specific dates and times when these suggestions would be implemented. And then the way that we can do a calendar for this is that October and November tree board meetings, we will talk about goal number 1, and that's what we're doing right this minute. And we'll do some more in November, following up on that. Then from November to January, we will have, I'm proposing that we, as members of the tree board, we have individual conversations with stakeholders and staff to collect ideas and proposals. Then in January and February, we'll have a big group meeting, all concerned parties to share and get feedback on our proposed modifications. And Maggie and Bill Phillip has volunteered to help me coordinate that event with help from the staff. Tree boards. And then goal 4 is to follow up to the group meeting with volunteers from that meeting to complete the final step. So that's a basic outline there of the project. On page 2 that you have in your packet are the materials which I collected for you for the day's meeting, and the overview of the project you have here. The materials for goal 1 are behind that, and they include a wonderful paper that Gracie dug up that was put together, I think, by Martha Campbell, and it shows the tree board connections with our roles in red. So that was a great starting point for us, if you all will look at that. And then the next page is the stated vision and mission of the tree board, which we will review again. And then a sample of past and present projects of the tree board. And Ann Benson has just now brought in a long list of accomplishments for the entire time, which I'm very grateful to her for doing, and that will help us all realize where we've been and what we're doing. So your assignment, students, is to go over all this material before we meet again, and send me a list of individuals who are involved or who should be consulted about this. And that would be goal number 2. Yeah, getting ready for the group meeting. We'll talk to people and consolidate our findings before the meeting. So give me some names who you think ought to be involved. And of course, we include David Neal here, who was the one that kind of brought all this to a head here. We thank you for your good questions, David. Well, so that's all I have.
So what are you
To-
asking us?
Can I
Yes.
make one comment?
Yes, let's have comments.
The reason everyone has voice, I was handed when I became the member of the tree board. Martha Campbell I'm taking her place. She gave me a notebook. This is the whole collection, meaning this particular one, as well as the vision, the mission, and also rules of procedure that was adopted 6 years ago. They're more or less bylaws. That handbook is very important and knowledgeable for new people coming on the board. It gives you an orientation. Also, when there is a tree board handbook, it's from the Arbor Day Foundation. Apparently, there are a lot of things that we can do for at least the big cities, but it gives a purpose for who we are. And it does make up the fact that you can have a tree board with ex officio kind of members or people that promote loving trees, and it doesn't have to be the 4 people all doing the work. For example, you can get an Arbor Day person outside of this board to say, I'll be in charge of the Arbor Day celebration, that type of thing. I'm a land care chair, so I'm automatically, because of the bylaws, placed on this, but I am not taking the responsibilities of taking the big chair for Arbor Day when I'm also trying to steer other committees and other entities in the presence of land care. It works differently with tree board, but we're definitely a land care committee and tree board of both town committees. the tree board has to be within the town, within their budget, separate. We have a separate budget because we're more or less outside of the framework of the town. So I just feel like any new members or anybody we come on to have, we need to have a handbook or an orientation. And I think this is what Maggie's goal was, to do this. So she called on me to say, what do you have? And I don't know, Philip, if you have anything, any handbook or any orientation?
No.
Okay, so we'll make up some duplicate copies for you.
Yeah,
You must have everything, Brad, because you have all of Ann's boxes.
right. I can say that I never received such a thing when I came onto the board. I think we've been inconsistent with that. I think it's a great idea to have, and if we can figure out a way of just automatically updating and issuing that to people as they come onto the board, that I think that would be wonderful. I see some of the things that are in the binder that you have there are things that are among stuff that Ann handed to me when I came into this role. So but having it in a form that a new board member can use for orientation, I think is a great thing to do.
Should I give you then, if you don't have it, the Town of Montreat Tree Board Rules of Procedure that were adopted in February of 16 and January of 2016 and January 2018 and in March of 2018. That was the last time there was any changes, but it talks about regular meetings, special and recess meetings, open meetings requirement, agenda request, appointment of officers. It's just and then there's a general ordinance for all of the environmental trees that we need to know about and be knowledgeable about what the town has and tree ordinances. And there is a tree management guide that's in another notebook that I was given that's about 10, which is what Barry has. And that's just part of what I have in my, this is just the smaller meetings with minutes from the last 3 years. So I think that's important to know.
Background stuff.
And that's what I think Maggie's trying to do here. So do you want this copy so I can make them with, or you,
I believe I have them
okay, it's,
said.
Maybe we need a subcommittee to put on orientation.
okay,
And put that on.
Yeah.
Agenda.
but this is a real action plan and I thank you, Maggie, for that.
So could we have some sort of general motion that this Who Cares for Trees project be temporarily approved further development?
So it's a proposal. Let's have some discussion about the idea.
May I ask you one question, Maggie? I'd be just interested in kind of what triggered your idea about doing this and what are you hoping will change? What's not happening that you hope will start happening in this town?
But what the main thing that's triggered all of this was David asking Grace, who's taking care of the Empire Initiative and all of these different groups. So maybe all the groups that are concerned with trees be talking to each other is obvious. So the lines of communication be clear. And right now they're really foggy. So this first thing, that one with the red lines was an effort to try to figure out how we related to what groups. And I think that would be what we would work on next. So it would be something that would affect the whole community. Agreement about who's going to do what.
Okay. So more communication between all the groups.
Right.
And I know that there's, if I could speak to part of the conversation that I've also had with David, but when we have reports from our public works, they are very busy. They're limited in their number. There's short staff. I don't know how 3 or 4 men do everything. And I know that their coming is It's very difficult, especially on, Tuesdays or anytime because they work just not on Fridays. But I know in the past, we've had at least some comment or some written report or that the chair has spoken to those people to say, what is it that I could say, or is there something that I need to bring to the attention of the tree board? And again, it's the public works is part of our connection. Also the conservation and open space, there's a town meeting that's called actually Wilderness and Open Space chaired by Mari Gramblin. And she's on that. I think she's the chair. We know we have Firewise and we know we have all the invasive plant, all that under land care. And those are our major connections. And that's why I'm sitting here as a board member. The mountain retreat are the ones with the grounds and maintenance that we have also been trying to talk to because through David, he said, well, the MRA wants to know what to do with their hemlocks. And so I said, well, we can, that's an initiative that's been in the land care committee for 7 years. All land care projects and activities come and go, so they don't have to stay. Once they've established what they're doing, as in David's situation, and he can speak to this, we have gone from a very expensive application of taking care of the trees, hemlocks, which are not only on the town property, there are 3 beautiful ones right over here in the town property next to the accessible trail that is town property. Others are all over in private places and property as well as the conference center. We now know that we can get chemicals that can treat these, so we don't have to have all these groups coming in and arborists coming and putting their beetles out. Is that my understanding? So this committee can just fade away from the land care, but there's still trees still here that need to be treated. They need to have public education, conference, MRA education. They have people from the outside come in and do their mowing and pruning. So there's really a limited grounds crew that the conference center has. So the trees still come in under the town's tree board, wherever they are, to educate, because as the handbook says, we can't educate, we cannot go in and do private property, but we can make sure we give education. That restoration fellow Tom Green, he could come for projects just like we have Firewise and Bearwise. So that's the long and short of why I think this connection of what Maggie's doing. And I just found out about, from our minutes, I forgot to even get back to Maggie until she called me this week and said, I've worked on my my Venn diagram. I think we need to get together. And I said, oh, yes, we were going to do that project because that's what we agreed to do in last month's meeting. Thank you, David. That makes sense?
Yes, thank you.
Other comments? I think that this is very, very much needed, and I think in concept at least, I think it's laid out pretty clearly. One, it is a little difficult to know how to approach the topics because there hasn't been the one entity that's really been dealing with some of these issues. Historically, a lot of things fell with land care and have stayed with land care over time. Hemlocks has been, for example, one of those things. And yet the language of the tree board charter, so to speak, kind of puts a lot on the tree board. So and one of the advantages of land care as it's structured is that you automatically have people from the different entities in the community come together in one room on a regular basis and are part of the conversation on whatever the things are. And I think that that's a real strength of land care. We're in a situation where we have responsibilities that relate to the different entities in the valley, and yet we don't have that automatic pulling together of people into it. So I think part of our task here is to figure out how to do that.
And I think this is what those goals and objectives
Yeah.
address, for sure. And,
Um,
as if we are a tree city, our guidance by, they give us a lot of information. I mean, there's Tree City US bulletins concerning how to work with, retaining stormwater post availability, talking about trees and what it means to, I mean, there's a lot of plant health care coming under Tree City USA. It's not just all trees. I mean, shrubs and things relate to the productions of good, healthy trees and keeping trees, all that. So what my point of think of all this is that Maggie and I think that there can be this overlapping of people, and that's the goal of when we talked about land care. If we want to get invasives out, if we want to take care of our trees, this is an unusual place. The town doesn't own anything. It only owns the right of ways. They don't own the park, the lake, the recreational, Robert Lake Park for kids. The trails are all under the Wilderness Committee and the conference center. They're private owned facilities. So we have to take care of the 90% of the land if we're a tree city.
If we can, if y'all can do your homework and send me names of people that we think of that would be involved, then we can begin to make our conversations with them before we have this big meeting, which we're going to be very carefully structure. Yeah, later in the spring. I'm thinking about Jason in particular, and all his work through the MRA with the hikers and the wilderness. And I would like to sit down with him and get his ideas just one-on-one and compile up like that. So that would be what I would like to do. And I'd like to get names from everybody as soon as possible to see who we need to go to. Info.
So I feel the need to look this over and think about it a little bit. And so I'm not really prepared myself to say, yes, let's go ahead with it as written. I think we need to review it and have our thoughts about it and come back next time, or if we want to call a special meeting, we could. But to having given it some thought, then be prepared to endorse this with whatever changes that might be there.
Do we need? Do you want to say anything at this point?
Exactly.
Silos is a good cause.
Well, I was just gonna say, we're lucky that we do have an organization here
Yeah.
that pulls all of the entities together.
Yeah.
It's land care.
Yes.
So as we think about this, I'm wondering if we need to try to have separate meetings. Why not have the tree board come to some land care, make presentations there?
Well, we have a member that comes, but then that particular, there's no reports that we get from this board, but because there's not been any action, I think there's action is what Maggie's looking
Yeah,
for.
but
There's got to be action. And if this particular one of the wilderness and open space, we're talking about property behind behind your house. We're talking about Winlithia. We're talking about public pocket parks or areas that need attention. And that's where we can take care of the trees.
yeah, but I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, do need to do more. I mean, land care already pulls all the entities together.
Yeah.
Why not work through them, go there and bring up our concerns?
Perfect.
Land care wants, I think, to jettison some of their responsibilities to us. with the Arbor Day.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean,
So
we need to
that's-
do our job as the land,
yeah.
as a tree board, but
Right. That's what we need to tell land care, give us what they want us to do. Be clear about that.
yeah.
Arbor Day has always been a tree board responsibility.
Yes.
And,
It's always been part of the native plants.
Yeah, so that's taken care of, right?
Well, it
No,
can
but
be, it
it's-
can be,
It's up for discussion some more, but we're starting to get a little bit far afield, and Rebecca had said something to say. I would.
can I speak to that?
Sure.
Okay, for example, in the land care committee, I must have 69 names that I send out the agenda and the minutes. They were past people who've interested in joining the committee or be part of it. They read it sometimes people they don't. Katie Whitmer, used to be on our committee, but she continues to get it and it's in her inbox. And when I get people that have worked on the separate committees outside, and I think we can expand people on the tree board, I think it should go out to the council members. I send it to all my commissioners, particularly environmental. I don't know. Barry gets it, I guess. Is Barry on our tree board?
It's
Yeah.
what, I'm sorry.
Is Barry, the Public Works email for Barry? I think Barry, is he on our,
It's on an email. It's
for the tree
Yeah,
board?
basically copy everybody, the board members,
Yeah.
the commissioners, and also town people.
Good.
The manager and the public works.
we need to.
And Daniel's not head of public works, but he participates so much.
But I think
Yeah,
Rebecca
people
needs to
like
be, mhm.
others.
People who work on the Ivy League. To the agenda.
Take the microphone if you do.
Pointing towards the things that are kind of falling through the cracks right now. That's where I come in. I was getting questions about, okay, who takes care of that for the town? My Hemlock initiative thing that is kind of near and dear to me. I don't know. I don't know who that is. Land Care has a initiative that we help once a year, usually with Montreat College. They haven't met this year. They did meet in February, but there's nothing scheduled. So again, I'm talking about coordination, communication, which was another good word I think we need to be sure and invest in for this time. That's my 2 cents.
So the idea is to expand emails on our communications. So that people know what we're doing.
So, we're in this transition period, with the board being managed for 6 years by Ann Vincent, who basically did it all. You know, and I'm not the kind of person who likes to do it all. And and how to organize these issues. And so I think what we're running into is how to finding out what we need to do to structure things in a way that doesn't put it all on one person's shoulder.
Right.
And when you do that, then communications, among other things, one of the first things that comes up as an important thing, and it is communications amongst the board members. It's communications with other entities in the community that need to be included. It's communications with the town staff who needs to be kept involved. You know, so a lot of attention needs to go to communications. So I think this conversation is good stimulation for our thoughts. And I think if we each take what Maggie has brought to us and look at it carefully and think about the implications of the various pieces and see if there's things that need to be tweaked to have it. One thing that I am very aware of is that as a committee that is an advisory committee to the town council, it's important for us to keep in mind our role relative to the town council. So any structural changes that we may come up with, or that we may come up in consultation with other people in the community, will ultimately need the town council to be informed, and probably at some point some approval of a plan that we present to them. So I think as the more we keep in mind that we're working for the town council from the beginning, then we'll structure things in a more.
I think that's why this rules of procedure and then what was agreed upon needs to be known by the members of this of the board. This is our relationship set up and approved and amended and then brought to the town council. So, they have to have a lot of things they have to know about. And I'm not sure sometime, that everybody knows everything. It's hard to know everything for sure. But and some of us know nothing. And I know of one person her name is Lynn Gilliland. She loves bylaws. She loves talking about bylaws. She likes to write bylaws. I took a 6-week course on bylaws about 25 years ago. I do feel they're important because it is, I don't want to write them, but it is important. It's the organization of the group, and it's the way we proceed. Most of this is procedures for town meetings. So there's a lot of, you have to pause and do this, or you have to post on the bulletin board this. I mean, it's all this transparency stuff. I'm not sure if the tree board has functioned that way, but we certainly have been, this is a town procedure.
So
really.
does everybody know the documents that Tracy is talking about? Okay.
So we don't need.
Well,
So-
if you've been on the board for 7 years and you've not seen this, and you have all of Ann's stuff, I just have
have
to
it,
get
but
what I got from,
so what I think we should
get the handbook.
think about here is to make sure that we all have this information, and we can do that. Grace, would you mind
Not
making
at all.
copies?
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Do we have the use of, I don't, here's another. I do all the printing for Landcare. I have an unlimited kind of ink thing, but I know that as a town, this tree board can have more functions with that copier in there than Landcare. So Maggie and I maybe will speak to Angie. I know that they're overloaded, but we also have to, as in Landcare as well as tree board, we need to have the clerk, who's Angie, have all these in her records for minutes. And she's always copied And I send mine to her. She and Ben Blackburn are the top two that get my agendas and minutes. So I'm assuming she's filing them, but that's part of the record of any town committee. But I'd be happy to print out this.
That would be helpful.
Yeah.
The other thing I was gonna say is, I think we should consider having a time annually. It probably would be like February, sometime in the early part of the year, where we set aside some time to remind ourselves about bylaws and procedures and things like that, and to orient new members of the board to things. I think that should be a regular part of what we do as a board, is make sure that everybody's on the same page in terms of that kind of thing.
Well, if someone goes to the website of the town and clicks on tree board, how much information is there? And are the minutes there for each month? They want to read the minutes because we are.
I've not been aware of our
No, I'm
minutes
just asking you. because
being posted
help
like
us
that.
with Getting stuff on our site. Rebecca's.
Wouldn't that be appropriate to have our minutes there? It's public information.
good idea.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, and I think we would talk with Angie about what is there and what works with what's already done.
Yes.
I think that would be the thing to do.
Angie needs to have the minutes that what Maggie sends to you or to us as well. So that list, we need to make sure that. I don't know what's been. in the
So,
minute.
So we can do it
Rebecca
in-
raised the question about electronic means of communication, and
Mhm.
I've always been a fan of doing that. Try to use that somewhat with this group. But I think there's much more that could be done.
Yeah.
And
Good.
Support
so I
that.
think we need to be given some thought as we go along to how best to structure our communications. Good. So then what we're gonna do with this is everybody's going to read through this, think about it. Come back to our next meeting with thoughts and suggestions about tweaks to the plan.
And hopefully some people. who associate with these groups. We just talk about.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we can name everybody until,
Let's
until,
go through
but
it.
it certainly, it doesn't hurt to begin. To begin thinking about who we need to be talking about. And then, and along with that goes how to, because we don't have any authority in MRA or with the college. You know, there's limited of what the board can do. But that doesn't mean we do have the responsibility to be establishing good communications.
Well, the red people are the ones connected to us and we need to connect. That's the key thing, or reconnect.
I was just gonna ask, is there a list of names? I didn't see that in your packet. Who cares
Oh,
about,
no, that's the job for next month.
okay,
Is to
so
collect who we
Okay.
feel we need to be talking to.
the reason I say that is if Brad, to your point, if you want to talk about it next meeting, be nice to have those people here.
Yeah.
So they need to be on an email
Right.
prior to that meeting. Does that not make sense?
I think we're still organizing our thoughts about this, so I think the next step
Okay.
then would be to reach out.
I can give you names for every one of those red places.
Okay.
I'd be happy to give
Well-
it to Maggie. There's outdoor, I mean, all of this is under, I have those people
Okay, we can do that off from this.
and the cottagers. Yeah.
Right, so, so for, as an example, I'm turning another new leaf I'm trying to turn over. here is that what we just talked about in terms of following up and reading the materials, et cetera, would be something that should show up under tasks for follow-up. Um, anything else on this before we move on? Okay. Oh, thank you. It's easy to get confused around the conversation when the different things keep popping up and needing you to have attention. But so it can get a little frustrating trying to make sense out of a topic like this, but I think it's a really important work that we're doing. Okay, I'm gonna say that we've done the old business, new business became old business. So we're at this transition between new and old, and the thing that appears there is public comment. So is there any other public comment that, and it could be on the things we've been talking about, but it could be on anything. So then that takes us to our old business, which, as I'm thinking about it, is essentially talking about the Tree City application. And I do want to thank Gracie and others that have responded to my requests for information, and it's coming in. I've got some stuff from Barry the other day that's got numbers attached. There's a couple of questions I have for him and need to figure out how to get his attention long enough. There's like one of the things in the application is if you're required to have a work plan, then it needs to be it's required to be in this too. So in the last couple of times, there has been a work plan for the public works that has been included. I'm not finding it. I'm not sure if they're required to have it. So it's one of those things that I have to figure out.
So you're gonna continue collecting stuff, Barry. And you're gonna continue collecting anyways.
Well,
Yeah, I'm
volunteer.
basically collecting everything. And I think what I should do very soon is go back through and make sure that I'm not missing any particular things that I need. And I'll try to send out a list of things that are still needed.
That would be great.
And
Maybe we can wrap this up.
yeah, we'll need to do that.
FYI, there were 2 pages in this copies of the Tree City that we all got. 2 pages that are not applicable because it's pages 5 and 6 or 4 or 5. It talks about the volunteer time, which is one that we've come up with. And this is one that just gives you the copy of how to go about doing it, because it says any town, and we already have what we turned in last year, which was 10,000 hours. And this on page 5, where it says volunteer time, we turn it back over and it's hours 300. So this was a sample that was duplicated, it's just contributions and things it was just a sample. So those 2 pages are duplicated. So that was any town. So
There are places where they want you to attach support for the things. If you give a number, then they want things that support where that number came from. That's what you're looking at is one of those attached documents. And Barry had told me that Ann had been able to give him like spreadsheets that just need to be populated. And yet I have not been able to find those except as attachments that have already been attached in the previous year.
Well, you should have, if you're the Arbor Day, you should have the one that you did give to the mayor last year. I think you did that. So that's the first page. Then there was always, the attachments are all these things that support what we did in the newspapers, the Ivy League, the Valley, Living was the article about Montreat Tree Board repairs for the Ivy League. So those are all the things that Arbor Day founder, Tree City USA Foundation. Those are things that are just what was attached because they were needed. The volunteer hours, I don't see anything that she has a spreadsheet on, other than that I give her a number of hours for land care or donated plant sale, and that's what I'm doing with Jean now. And so I don't know, in this, it only says last year we had 10,000 hours, and I don't know, as I recall, what numbers came from land care, or what numbers came from Fire Initiative or Nancy Midget. That's somewhere in somebody's, maybe it's in her computer if there's a spreadsheet, but it looks like once I turn my numbers in, that's what I contributed as volunteer time, and that's, you have to attach your Arbor Day proclamation, so you need to get that one, and that's what you had, because you gave it out last year. Or, and, yeah, you were on the tree board. We didn't have one in 2021. But you're the only one that has it. That's my point.
Yeah, that's one of the weaknesses, the way they're doing it it kind of puts in a bottleneck with that.
But you have the proclamation, just one piece of paper. That's one checklist. So you're the only one that can do it. It's my point. I don't have it. You have it.
But
What else?
we're talking about different things here. One is they need the data. They need to know how many people live
That's the town.
live in Montreat. They need to know about the budget of they need to know about the budget of the public works.
That's
they
Public Works job to give to you. That's what Ann said in the past. She gets it all from Barry because they're the only ones that have it. We don't have it.
So that there are some things where there are multiple sources for one number. For example, volunteers is a good thing because there's several different groups and people that have volunteer, and
I'm taking care of that. I'm doing that.
you're doing at least some of it, but there may be others.
I know the others, and if you want me to, it lists here, and that's the Firewise.
I'm asking
Mhm.
you under land care to come up with volunteer hours that you can account for under land care. But there may be additional things that I will add into the information.
Of
that you
course,
need.
of course, yeah, yeah. You have to get up more than 10,000 hours for sure.
Oh, actually, we don't. But
Well, it's meeting times too.
Yeah.
This meeting, tree board meetings. Yep. What else do you need us to do other than the volunteer hours? Is there something?
I will be sending out a list of
Okay.
things that still need.
Okay. Be sure to copy Public Works.
So are we ready to talk about taxes?
So I need to have conversation with Barry. And I'm asking everybody to send me everything they have on volunteers. And, I will be looking for additional things that I so far have missed. But I'll let you know what they are and who I think can help with it.
actually think it's going along pretty well. I've started to getting information that I need to have to fill in the blanks. The time is, we're getting to the end of October and we've got to the end of November, so it's gonna be a little bit more intense to pull it all together. But I think it can be, done. Okay, so, anything else on the Tree City things? Okay. So then that brings us down to tasks for follow-up. Let's list things. I need to send out a list of Tree City items that are still needed to everybody. I need to contact Barry of Public Works, the things that we need him. We need to pull together the volunteer hours as much as we can. These are not, there's no minimum number that's there. The only kind of minimum number that's in the whole thing is town spending $2 per capita. That the budget reflects spending that much on trees, and Barry can do that in his sleep. It's $2 per capita when you have 987 people. That's $1,900 dollars. Which is a drop in the bucket compared to what's spent around here.
Yeah, that's on this application. I mean, that's just figured out because that's why the hours are important. And it's on here, that sample. Last year for that 10,000, it was a lot.
That was the documentation.
From last year. Yeah.
Supporting what was done. But we have to have new numbers. So,
My tasks are to get ready for it. Get the names for you all that you think of, to continue figuring out what we'll accomplish in November, which is tweaking, which you all will give me some feedback. So that'll be my main job. Get ready for that. Grace, what are your tasks?
Well, I think we're adopting goal 1 then of your document, if that's the case. Because that's what we're going to do, and I'm going to do the handbook materials. I can give out the names of those people who are connected to the tree board, from the public works to the town conservation and open space. I can give you the Firewise native plant sale Arbor Day is not applicable. We have the 2 new plant sale people for next spring. The invasive plant removal is just an ongoing project of education that we do, but I can say that land care can help with that. We have a wilderness committee from the MRA headed up by Chair by David Evans, Jason Nance. We have outdoor education with Dottie Schumann and from the college and Josh Holbrook. And then we have Beth Fountain from the Cottagers Wilderness and Open Space. I propose that those would be some of the names that I can give to Maggie to include. That's what these red people are. Or head. And that's what you need, David, don't you? There's still a grounds and maintenance for the town. There's still some people, nice people that are up there working so well with town. And I don't know if you've met them, David, but that may be who approached you or asked you about the hemlocks. Do you know that name? Who's the head? Okay, I'll get that. So that's another task for me to give you more names. To be here. Don't go all the way again.
that's Thanksgiving week. I'll be out of.
I may not
state.
be here either.
That's 2 days before Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, I'll be out. I'll be in-
Maybe we need
Okay,
to change
I was
the
just gonna say, should we make it, see if we can change the date of the meeting for November?
date, maybe a week.
No, we don't have one in December, so we need to have one.
Stay tuned.
So when is Thanksgiving this year? 24th.
So the meeting's supposed to be the 22nd. Let's see if we can have it on the 15th. John. What?
Okay, well, it on my calendar, it's possible. It would require coordinating with town staff. And I'll need to check with the other people that are not here at this point to see that they're able to come. So if the board wants to try to make that change, I'll work on it.
That would be great.
Tracy, you're okay with that?
Oh, I could, yeah,
Yeah.
15th is great.
Phil,
That
does
helps you out.
Does 15 work for you? Would what, the 15th work for you as a meeting date? Would you be willing to make things November?
I think so. On my calendar. Sorry. Yeah, that should work.
Okay. So I will,
That should work.
So stay tuned. Now that,
all right,
good.
but yeah, so the minutes could reflect that we've decided to make that change,
Yes.
pending clearance with the town.
I think you're not too busy that week. Have anything on the
Okay,
calendar. All right.
all right, so I have a question for the secretary.
Yeah.
One thing that makes it work to have this kind of task to follow up and stuff is to have a reminder relative.
I'm
So
getting-
what is, I know I had a great, when I was doing, I had a great deal of time. Sometimes I was like right on top of it. and Sometimes I was very late. So
But I think
what do you think would be reasonable for you?
I will try to do it today. And certainly before the beginning of next week.
Within the week,
Yes.
we can look for something. Okay.
Put that down.
And you could send it out to everybody. And we will do the approved thing later. It's just like-
Okay. It's pretty easy to do accurately when you have food.
Makes a big difference. Okay,
Right.
so next meeting is scheduled for November 22nd, but it TBA to be announced.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
No? All right, thank you.
Right.
It comes, there are two